Good evening, everyone. I'd like to bring the meeting to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Banta?
Here.
Mr. Barbarulo? Mrs. Frankel?
Here.
Mr. Klein?
Here.
Mrs. Piella?
Here.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Here.
Mr. Spindell? Mrs. Wallace?
Here.
Ms. Quackenbush?
Here. Please join me for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Fairlawn Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof distributed to the persons on the approved list, posted in the Board of Education Administrative Office, and sent to the Bergen Record and the Community News. The announcement for the regular monthly meeting, along with the date, place, and time thereof, was distributed on October 22nd, 2015. The items to be discussed during the closed work session of November 19th, 2015 may include personnel matters, student matters, legal matters, negotiations and/or grievances, tactics and techniques utilized in protecting public safety and property. The results of these discussions will be made public as soon as possible. Can I have an approval for the minutes for the regular monthly meeting of October 15th, 2015, the executive closed session of October 15th, 2015, and the work session for November 9th, 2015?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Board comments. Mike?
All right, a couple of things. First of all, there was a shared services meeting a couple weeks ago. I remember what, I think it was a couple weeks ago. Not much going on, but again, we discussed parking at the high school. At the community center. The town would still like us to give up a little piece of land behind the practice fields. Apparently, what we didn't know was that there's a chance that the town owns some of that land. So that could present this.
Are they looking into that?
Yes. Did they get back to us, John?
No.
So that would be interesting, because we asked for maps. We asked for maps, but it was still a very productive discussion. It wasn't, there was no, it's a very productive discussion. So there was no problem with that. What was the other? What was the other item? John?
I'm thinking.
No, it wasn't a big thing. We went back and forth because there was a chance. Kurt Peluso had read an article in the paper that there was a possibility of the town making an ordinance to help us out with people that come to, that we find to be in the school illegally. as far as monetary fines and stuff. Our lawyer doesn't really think that he hasn't heard of anything like that, so we're looking into it. And it would just be another tool in our, if there was the possibility, it would just be another tool in our,
There's one Bergen County town that passed the
right, Saddle River.
Saddle River. According to our attorney, we're not so sure it has any real teeth to it.
Right.
If we pass an ordinance. You know, we have relief, which, as you know, we've exercised through the commissioner, through the courts. So it is there. So I don't know what the ordinance is.
So, and speaking of shared services, at the school board workshop last month, Mr. Banta, Mr. Caruso, and I did a whole presentation on shared services at the workshop. It was Gene's idea.
Thank you.
It was Gene's idea to put it into it, and we really are a model. We really are a model for people to follow as far as shared services with the borough, between the borough and the school board. And the presentation went really, really well. There was about, I would say there was about 60 people there. Yeah. And the thing, I think when you know, the way you know that you did it right was really until the end, no one walked in. The room was full till the end. And there was a lot of great questions, and so it was very productive. And people came after, and thank you, Joanne, for being there to help if there was a question that we couldn't answer. Joanne was there to help.
Well,
So,
I also was there
yes, and
as a
thank you, Cindy. I'm
participant.
sorry.
No, I wasn't saying it for that reason. And I just wanted to tell the board how very well received this entire presentation was. People were really in awe at the relationship that we have with our town council, and a lot of people were going to take it back to their own board to see what they could do to try to mend some fences that weren't really there. So I thought and I'm not being biased when I say it, I thought it was one of the best presentations that I had gone to while I was down there. It was really good. You guys did a great job. Jeff?
Yeah. Just real quick on that. Actually, through my travels, I've met a lot of other board members who actually showed up to that, and it came back to me to them that was something they really enjoyed, and that was actually one of the more worthwhile workshops they had been through too. With regard to the Saddle River thing, just a comment. I know that I brought that up like a couple weeks ago, and I know that the conversation didn't go anywhere, but then I reflected on it. I'm glad it got brought up. Isn't the one thing that would be very helpful, not the fact that if the law would have any teeth or they may get fined $20, but if it's an ordinance, doesn't that mean then the police can do the investigations for us? Because if it's a town ordinance, it could be investigated by the police department as opposed to being investigated by us because it's their ordinance, so we wouldn't have to police it. And that could be an advantage.
I don't know that the police, it's not a criminal violation. The police would not typically investigate a civil ordinance. So I don't think that they would get involved in that.
On the other hand, I don't think they would investigate it as thorough as we investigated. I mean, you know, we without anybody knowing, we have people, they're there 5 a.m. to see people really living or leaving their homes. They're there at night. They're gonna, and it's continuity with the same firm, same people doing it for us. It's not being handed off from shipboard to shipboard. So we've been, as you know, pretty successful with that investigation, and so I probably would stay, with us. I think is the best way.
Well, I just thought it's different, like if a police officer came to my door asking me questions as opposed to someone.
Well, maybe that could happen. Where
Like,
they could,
there's a threat of having a police officer come to your door that's innately more threatening
Yeah.
than a guy from the community school coming and knocking on your door. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Mark, did you have something?
Yes,
on-
not on that, no.
Oh, okay, I'm
I-
gonna let
I'm
Mike
sorry.
finish his
Right.
comment, and then we can go to you.
The other meeting I attended, and Ron can't be here because he has his surgery, was the Buildings and Grounds meeting. And we got a report on the Westmoreland expansion, and you could look on the wall over there, because that's pretty much was the report with the visual, yes. You visual learners. We're right on track. It was the basic thing that we found out from the construction officials and the our on-site supervisors. We're basically on track right now. For it to be finished in August. If there's a bad winter, or all of a sudden a steel strike or something, something unforeseeable, that changes the whole timeline pretty quick. So, but right now we're all on track for. I think if you look at the timeline there, it's the middle to later.
Yeah, a lot, if you look to the right, you can see as we get into the summer, there's an awful lot of, it looks like, wow, there's a lot of work going on. And that's finishing, construction work is being finished. You've got painting, you've got the finalization of floors, especially when you put in terrazzo floors, and that, takes a lot of time. You've got some punch list items, you've got electric inside the school and so forth. So there's a lot of work that's got to get done next summer that we're not doing while students are in the building. And that's why you see it all jammed up like that. But one thing which Mike has pointed out, which we did chat about that night, for those of you who were with us back in 2006, when we did a major building program in this district, you'll remember that we were a couple of months, we were pretty nervous because steel sat on the docks of China and they weren't releasing it. And then as soon as we got that release, we had that Midwest flood and hurricane, and we had the manufacturer of the door frames. That company was underwater, we couldn't get our door frames. And we're running around trying to figure out how do we get this done under budget and within budget and open up with all these delays. Because now people have got to work extra hours, you got to go to weekends, but we managed to do it, so we were very lucky. And so right now, we don't have any steel sitting on the docks of China or floods in the manufacturers. So far, knock wood, it's going quite
The
well.
one great thing that night was the Westmoreland principal was there, and basically construction, they had to change a couple things around, like emergency exits and stuff like that, but basically it has had a positive effect. It seemed to me coming out of that meeting that the construction has had a positive effect, because the kids are seeing the construction, they're learning from them, they're learning what's going on, and they're having
They were actually
a good time, yeah.
interviewing some of the workers, and they put out a very nice newspaper. And these elementary students, as you saw, I brought the one over and showed it online. And so now they're going to, they just finished interviewing the electricians. And they're going to write an article on electricity. Great learning experience for these youngsters, so it's really good. Yeah.
Mark?
Yes, as the liaison for the community school, I just wanted to say that the past meeting was canceled due to Mr. Shansky's illness.
We had a student dialogue meeting just before this meeting, and it's always amazing to me what the students are doing. They want another water bottle fountain, water fountain. So they're working towards that. It's the week where they have the penny races. It's the Spirit Week, so they were discussing that. There's a tech issue that's going on, which I'm going to give over to the tech committee, having to do with getting booted off the smooth wall every 10 minutes. And if you're in class are 45 minutes, so if you're actually using devices, then it becomes an issue. So I'll turn that over to the technology committee. But all in all, there's so much going on at the high school. It's just amazing. It's really just amazing.
They are they're outstanding kids, I'll tell you, they do a great job.
Anything else? Joe?
Today I was at Forest School and they have their dance in residence and at the third and fourth grade performed and it was like outstanding. And I was talking to Mr. Weaver, they also did it for our first and second is circus and then fifth grade gets to go to a play. But I think it's a really good program and I want to say thank you to the PTA for sponsoring it because it was really, I was very impressed with it. It was really very, very nice.
Good, thank you for sharing that. Mary?
December 5th. I hope you all have your calendars now. It's the board retreat. We need 7 people.
One of them?
Nice guys, you know, in the room one.
So please let me know if you will not be in attendance as soon as you can, because we do have to have 7 people.
Starts at 8.
30.
It's 8:30 with a little coffee and then you usually get right into it, yeah. And it should be over by noon.
And everybody that needs to be, you know.
Everybody's
booked.
People that are supposed to come.
Oh, I don't know, that's Al. Al's taking care of that, yes. It's not who we thought is coming, but yeah,
Okay, great.
he told me yes. Okay.
I just wanted to thank Warren Point for inviting all the parents in this past week for Writers Workshop. For all the parents out there who are listening to this meeting, it is certainly a very positive thing for your child and for all the students to have the parents come in and actually do a lesson with them and go through the writer's checklist and work on their writing with them. I know for me personally it was a valuable experience and a nice little bonding experience in connecting school to home without it being, did you do your homework, it was actually positive. So I appreciate that the district opens their doors to the parents like that and would certainly encourage that all parents in schools continue to do that, because it certainly is a strong benefit for children.
John?
I also went that Monday night to the 8th grade orientation at the high school, and I was very impressed with everything that went on there. And at the meeting today, we were talking to, because there's students there, and the students help out, and it was, you know, it was very good, and everything that went on, it was very impressive. I really liked it a lot.
Any other board comments? Turn it over to the superintendent for comments.
Okay, I have a number of them. First of all, let me piggyback on Joe's comment. 8th grade orientation, I was very happy to see the amount of board members who were able to show up. And obviously in the beginning, we introduced all of you, so the parents and the audience. So it's a great opportunity, as you know, for parents who have never been to the high school, and they have children in 8th grade going to the high school. And when you come up and take that tour with student ambassadors leading you, and you get to see the curriculum in all of our areas, it's pretty impressive. And a lot of comments, a lot of positive comments as I was walking around with some of the board members. I was also monitoring the halls for a while, and it was just a great night. So, Sean, thanks for bringing that up. All right, some of the other comments I have. First of all, we had a week of American Education Week, so we had visits of parents, and how sad is history bringing us to the forefront of, you know, just a week after, about a week after this Paris thing, sadly, we are so aware and so in tune to safety, security, and the unknown that, you know, public schools, in the history of public schools, these buildings across this country were built with open arms. They're built to engage, they're built to welcome in people, and now we're in an era that everybody's shutting everybody out, and it's really a hard thing to, you know, want people to get in, and at what risk do you do that? This year was the first time in quite a while, during American Education Week, we laid some ground rules as to who could come into the building and visit. It has to be immediate. They have to identify or be known by the people signing them in that there is a connection to a child. And we did really, many of the schools had cut back having extended family units come in, and it was just the parents coming into the schools. As you all know, we get criticized if we're open on election day. We get criticized, you know, if we're open on the primaries day. So it's a sad thing, but I will tell you that for American Education Week, just to throw out some numbers, Lindcrest welcomes 78 visitors. And here, just to give you an idea, so we're still opening our doors, but we're really trying to control the safety. Milnes, 209. Radburn, 244. Forest School, 99. Westmoreland, 52. Warren Point, 176. Memorial, 67. Thomas Jefferson, 43. High School was a little less, and Edison was a little less. But you get the drift. We still have a lot of parents, even though it's controlled, coming in, very interested in their child's day, and they want to see that in action. It's a great thing. I did it with all of my kids, and I can remember sitting in every year, sitting in all of them, and go back. And it's something parents really should see. So let's hope the world gets a little safer so we don't have to cut back on things like this. It's so important. Okay, going forward, in my update to the board, I mentioned, and I'll mention it now publicly, we have a world champion silver medalist wrestler at our high school. One of our teachers, who was a vet, went to the World Wrestling in Athens and won silver medal in class. And Keith is our food teacher up there, culinary arts. And first of all, he's a very interesting guy. Secondly, I don't know how he does it. I mean, he's not a spring chicken. And I mean, he's out there wrestling and he wins a silver medal. So that's worth noting. We had a lot of nice times talking about it up there. And some of you saw him the other night at 8th grade orientation. November 7th, by now everybody knows, you've read a number of articles in the paper. Very, very proud of our marching band and the parent support and all the students and our staff. And you know, we competed in MetLife building. We competed in the championship. There were a number of bands, Passaic, Bergenfield, Northern Highlands was there, and a number of others. And we came out doing exceptional. I think we won first place overall. Was that who's there? Who's the band parent? It was something like first place, Jim, administrator.
First place in percussion.
Percussion first place, second overall, all of that. So, you know, for any of you who have young children, this is what's in store. I mean, we have all of these things going on at the high school, and all we need is for students to be interested in joining up on a lot of these things. But outstanding accomplishment, and we recognize them obviously already internally. On the agenda tonight, the board, well, first of all, Radburn PTA Council had accepted recently an additional check. This is for $2,500 from Community Bank towards the playground. And tonight, our principal is here. Mrs. Lindsay is sitting in the audience from Radburn. And tonight, the board, there is a motion on the board to authorize the board to start the application process. So it becomes legit, so to speak, and it was a long time coming. So that's on the agenda tonight. So we thank all the parents, and obviously I want to thank the board for taking this in a very intelligent way, not putting yourself in a situation that it's going to cost taxpayers money, but you waited, and they're raising money, and we're going to get match some of it, but we're also going to get paid back. So it's kind of a nice thing for the board to do and take that lead. I am very pleased to announce that our emergency management officer in town, Ms. Wendy Alvarez, who we all work with, all the principals work with Wendy, and I went over and met with the mayor about 2 weeks ago, and he and I had a lot of conversations about all of the people. Jim Van Krunigen joined us, and we chatted about all the cooperation that Mike was talking about earlier. It's so much more than most. And we were chatting about, I went over really to thank them on behalf of the board and myself on the cooperation we receive from their folks in so many ways. And here's the evidence of one way. The Office of Emergency Management teams up with us, and by statute, we have to have a number of security drills each month, each year, but one of them has got to be a relocation drill, and that's not easy. You're moving children and staff from one building to another building. And Wendy and her staff, and I have to give kudos to Wendy, the police jump right in with us each time. DPW workers jump in to help us blocking the streets, make them safe. And I'm sure I'm missing someone, but they're all there. And every one of our schools has completed that relocation drill, which is one of the biggest evacuation moves that you can do, and they're trained in that. So that special thank you goes out to not only Wendy, but to everybody else that's involved in that, including our people. We have had a long relationship with Barnabas Health Hospital, and we're one of the, I think, the only town in North Jersey that has come off with a 5-year grant working with them. And as you know, we have had them in our schools working with families that have struggled from drugs and alcohol. And that grant has gone away, it's not being refunded. So one of the employees that worked for Barnabas has joined the Children's Aid and Family Services Organization, and that center has teamed up with us, and they are now continuing a program similar to that, and I believe we have it in the 7th grade in our middle schools now. We're working with, anonymously, we work with families in this community that are struggling with family issues, whether it be children or the parents, which has to do with alcohol and drugs, and it's very successful. We've helped a lot of families. It's all kept very quiet, but this is something this board has always supported. And I just wanted to let you know that we're continuing it in another direction. So that's great and we build some of that into our curriculum and our health curriculum, so we utilize some of what we learn in the health curriculum. Okay, next. I'm going to wait till last. On the agenda today, matter of fact, item E7, the board will be approving some payment for some of our faculty for their services in working with our students at the high school to remediate, train, and then test in the AccuPlacer. Now, let me just explain to everyone what this all means. And I'm going to be doing this. Last year, I wrote 5 letters to this community about PARC, about Common Core, and taking the test. We've had a lot of panic in the world about opting out, and oh my God, the walls are falling down because we're taking PARC. The reality is that the future now and in the future, students are taking more and more and more exams or assessments on computer-based. And it's happening now not only in schools across the state of New Jersey and the country, but it's also happening in college boards going to within 2 years, SATs, the ACT, they're not college boards, the SATs, the PSATs, that's all going to be computer-based testing. ACT is going to be computer-based testing. LSATs, all right, if you're going on to some of your graduate work, if you go to the GMATs and the LSATs, that's all going to be computer-based testing. And for us not to jump in now and start our youngsters with computer-based testing is a mistake. It's a mistake for the future. And it has nothing to do with people getting information, which is a falsehood. Nobody gets information out of this which they can use to hurt anybody. I heard that one too. I couldn't believe you saying that. But this is something that is critical. And our staff has done a wonderful job taking a lead in this. We just finished our first PARC exam, which was given last year in the spring. We had 2 of them at PBA at the end of the year. This year there's some changes. We're going to have PARC testing again, but this time is one testing window in the springtime rather than 2, which made sense to me. We didn't like that last year, so everybody was jumping on it, but they did change. We have begun to get the PARC scores back just recently. We have the high school scores in language arts literacy. We have the high school scores in the end of course math, the 3 levels. We also have a look at middle school in math and the specialization of Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. We will be getting the scores next week for grades 3 through 8. And later on we get to our new business. At the end, we're going to ask for Natalie and Elise had a conversation. We need a night for an education meeting so we can present the scores which I have to do within a certain amount of time frame, as you well know, it's all the QSAC and everything else, so I have to do that, and we'll be working together. And I thank God that I have people like Natalie and Gary Pankowitz, and Lauren Gamone, and the principals, because to get this all done, and then interpreted and getting ready, because we're sending letters home to parents with the new score reports and training everybody takes a role in this. So I wouldn't know how to do it alone, and so I'm very fortunate to have good people working with me. So I need a night, and we'll talk about it later, to come to the board with that. But let's go back to the AccuPlacer. The AccuPlacer is a test. It tests knowledge of mathematics in certain areas, language arts literacy in certain areas, like reading, writing, vocabulary, etc. It will do some trigonometry. It'll test on algebras. And the AccuPlacer is used in every community college in the state of New Jersey. Everyone uses the AccuPlacer test. And what happens is students go to, say, Bergen Community, and a lot of our students will go to Bergen Community for a lot of reasons. One, first of all, it's inexpensive compared to going out to a 4-year school. If any of you have kids in college, you will know how expensive it is. It's out of control in this country. In my opinion, it's not the board's opinion, it's not. And, you know, so many people will have their children, they'll go to Bergen Community for 2 years, they'll pay that price, and then they'll transfer. And they transfer to great schools. We know our students transfer to NYU, Manhattanville College, they'll go to some Pennsylvania schools all over, Rutgers and everything else. So it's not a bad thing, it's also very financially savvy. However, the AccuPlacer is given, and the AccuPlacer was really in the past never aligned to the New Jersey standards, not the core curriculum, but the New Jersey standards. They were not aligned. Therefore, kids would go to these community colleges all over the state and not do well. They wouldn't pass the test because it was on a lot of material they never had. And it was a moneymaker, you know, for community colleges. And then you have to pay, you have to go through mediation, take it again. Well, now that the Common Core is coming in, it aligns itself better with the AccuPlacer. So one of the things is there is a statute that says every student in the state of New Jersey must take a high school graduation assessment. Let me say that again. I've tried to point that out in the past. They have to take a high school assessment to graduate, to get your diploma, and pass, to get your diploma. So what does that mean? Well, it means that in the past, it was the HESPA. Before that, it was a bunch of other things. But if you didn't pass the HESPA, you would have to retake it a number of times. And if you didn't pass that, then there were other avenues that we could work and remediate the areas that the students came up that they were delinquent in, and you know, knowledge, and we would work with them. Well, now it's PARCC. PARCC in 2019 or 20, what they're saying, is going to be mandated. So, you know, young students might as well get used to taking computer-based testing, PARCC, and Common Core, because it's coming. Right now, we have some relief. If a student doesn't pass PARCC, they have these sub-assessments, such as PSAT, SAT, ACT, AccuPlacer, on and on. And they have cut scores. So, for whatever reason, we have students at the high school who were seniors this year and either did not take the PARCC, or they did not do well on any of the sub-assessments, or they took none of them. We do have some that took none of them. Well, they're not, and we just met. Now, Mr. Marcellus here, our high school principal, and he has kind of been, with his team, the champion of all of this, and he has put together a very nice process. And I'm going to ask him, Jim, I hope I don't embarrass you, but you might just stand and just explain quickly how we are using the AccuPlacer to help our students graduate from Fairlawn High School?
Sure. We identified students who didn't meet any of the other sub-tests, because we didn't have the PARCC scores back, so we had to go with that. And we identified those kids, and what we did was, last Friday, we did our first administration of the AccuPlacer in mathematics. Leading up to that, We remediated, we identified those kids, we notified parents, we notified them about what the requirement was and what we would be doing. We notified them that we did 4 days of remediation, or really preparation more than remediation. After school, leading up to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and on last Friday, we did our first round of testing with the AccuPlacer. AccuPlacer, as Bruce said, is very, the feedback is immediate. As soon as you hit the button and you finalize your test, we get the score. So it was really quick to find out whether it passed it or not. You can take the AccuPlacer multiple times. You can take it 50 times if you like. When you pass, you pass. So we made a decision that we were going to, as kids were going through the process, I'm sure they were very close on that day, we would take them the same day. Friday, we started in mathematics. Tomorrow is English Day. In mathematics, we started with about 62 students. And then we tested, we remediated, we prepped them during the week, and then we tested them on Friday. And we ended up with about 21 that didn't pass that first round of testing. There were 4 kids who were so close, we said, you want to try it again? And we gave them a break, they had lunch, we brought them back, they tried it again, and all 4 of those kids passed it, so they were done that day. So we were down to like, after just one day, we were down to about 16 or 17 kids. We brought them back on Monday. Monday, we gave them a period of, 2 periods of preparation. And then on Tuesday, we gave them a period of preparation followed by the test again, and then we were down, at that point, we were down to about 10 kids. As of right now, we're down to 2 more students who need to pass the math, and all of those kids. So it's an ongoing process. It's something that we're kind of thinking on our feet as kids go through it. We know the kids, we work with, whether it's the guidance counselor or the case manager, we work with them to determine whether that student is going to be able to take that test again right away or not. We've given a lot of decision-making power to the kids themselves about whether you want to try it again right now, you want to wait until tomorrow. So it's really been working very, very well. This week, we prepped students Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and today for the English AccuPlacer, which is going to be the first administration is tomorrow. And we're going to go through that same process. So it's really been very successful, and you know, we're looking good. We're looking good. You know, when we remember the last meeting we talked about how many total we had. It was a scary number to listen to. But once we got through this, you know, we put a process in place, and it's working well, and you know, we're happy about it. So we'll keep going. There's actually have been a few kids, as Mr. Watson mentioned, that the AccuPlacer is also placement test for colleges. There have been a few kids who asked if they can take the test, because then they would not. We talked to Bergen Community. Bergen Community said if they take it with us, it's still going to count for them. There were a few kids who did take the test because it was something that would help them when they got to Bergen Community. So we'll keep going. Hopefully next time I'll tell you everybody's done and we're all set.
So we have 2 things I want to say on that. One is, I hope this coming year, both students and parents realize taking the park, it's not going to hurt you. It doesn't hurt. I mean, it's not like you go in and get a shot in the arm. I mean, it's, you know, it's going to get out, it's going to get scored. We're going to look at it, we're going to say, okay, here's where you're doing well, here's where you're not doing well, so we can actually work up an individual plan for every student. How great is that? So that's what we're looking for. So hopefully we get over the scare tactic and people sit and take the park. It's not anything to be frightened of. Secondly, I want to send kudos out. Our teachers stepped up to the plate and said, we're going to do this. And they took on this additional responsibility to work with the students, remediate the students, and have this work. So thank goodness for our faculty, and they're very good. And that's the motion that you're going to have on there to approve tonight. I'm all for it, and they're doing a great job. And, you know, Fairlawn High School is really tuned in to kids learning what they have to learn and going outside the normal, just getting a grade. But we want to teach them critical thinking skills, problem solving, how to synthesize, the skills that we really need in life to do a successful job. And we're doing that. I want to thank our teachers for that, as well as Mr. Marcella, Mr. Kahn, and all, Mr. Vanessa, and all the guidance counselors. Everybody's worked so hard. Now, the next thing, which is my last comment, but it's a little different. I want you to look at the board with me, if you don't mind. I'm going to show you a YouTube video, and Mr. Dorso is with us. Mr. Dorso is our science subject supervisor. He also handles tech ed and a few other things. We have, there is a STEM league, STEM Everybody knows the word, the acronym STEM has become very popular in today's society because we need engineers, we need technology people, we need scientists and everything. So Fairlawn had never really had a legitimate STEM program. And yet Bergen County was going that way. We were putting our money in other directions. Well, just last year we started a pretty much a STEM program, and it started with a gradual step, you know, crawl before you walk, etc. And Mr. Dorso came to us a number of years ago at the education meeting, and he talked to us about having this additional period opportunity for schools to go in and have some teachers come in and start looking at STEM. That went well. We're going forward with that. And we competed in our very first STEM competition last year, and we did well. We did well. For not being a STEM focus, we did well. And we're competing against some of the, the better high schools around that can afford these things and do it. Well, with the graciousness of the board and the skill set of the business office, we had some money budgeted, and we created a STEM lab, which has the latest equipment at the high school. Mac computers, it has engineering software, it has color printers, it has, what other printers? It has all kinds of things. 2 3D printers.
It's a wonderful room.
It's a great room. And we have taken STEM on in our real first full year very seriously. Now, here's the nice thing. We had a competition, and we entered the competition, Fairlawn, and we took first place. And we competed against schools, Pascack Valley, Northern Valley, Demarest, Northern Valley, Old Japan, Ramapo, Indian Hills, Northern Highlands. I mean, all the schools that are out there leading the way. And I know the superintendent, so I really like going through and saying, we took first place, which is really something. So I'm going to play this little YouTube that Mr. Dorso forwarded to me, and hope you enjoy it.
On October 27, 2015, approximately 100 students from 7 area high schools gathered at Northern Valley Regional High School at Old Japan for the first New Jersey Interscholastic STEM League meet of the 2015-16 school year. With 1 in 10 people in the global population lacking access to safe water, and the United States facing its own set of challenges regarding safe water, this problem of global and national importance was selected as the theme for the meet by its organizers. Teams were alerted to several related research topics 1 week prior to the meet, but they did not know specific details regarding what they'd have to do until they arrived at the meet. The students were greeted by Ms. Michelle Termina, local watershed ambassador, who explained the importance of clean water to the environment and how preventing contamination of water is far more effective than having to remediate dirty water later. Mr. Pete Fitzpatrick from the local water provider company Suez also spoke to the students about local water facility operations. The first learning task of the morning was the STEM Connections Lab. The students measured the pH level of a pre-mixed solution and determined what was needed to neutralize it. They also calculated flow rate of the solution as it passed through possible materials that they could use later in their water filter designs. After the STEM Connections document was turned in for evaluation, the students turned their attention to the engineering design activity for the day. The team members had to work together to design a prototype of a water filtration system that would remove solid contaminants from some dirty water, as well as adjust its pH level. Teams needed to refer back to what they learned about the dirty water solution, which was the same for every team, and apply what they learned during the STEM lab to the engineering task. The students had to make important decisions about which available materials they would use in their designs. Common materials available to all teams included items such as coffee filters, craft sticks, cotton balls, water bottles, and other everyday items. Most teams developed a 2-stage approach to their designs. Stage 1, or the top level, would remove the solid contaminants, including sand and wood chips. The bottom stage would be designed to adjust the pH level of the water as it passed through the filter. To finish their morning of intensive work, teams had to create a brief 4-minute presentation and a visual aid to explain to judges how they created their designs and how their systems worked. All of the tasks were scored to determine how teams placed. Congratulations to all of the participating students from Northern Valley Old Japan, Northern Valley Demarest, Pascack Valley, Pascack Hills, Paramus, Fairlawn, Ramapo, and Bloomfield High Schools. All of the students showed great knowledge of math and science. They applied that and their ingenuity to solve a problem, and most importantly, they had a great deal of fun. Congratulations to the first place team from Fair Lawn High School.
Well, that is a perfect example of what we're trying to do with the Common Core, what we're trying to do with we're teaching how to use a skill set. I don't know about you, but I couldn't do that. I don't know if anybody in the room thinks they can do that. I couldn't do that. You walk in, they give you the rules, and you're supposed to get together you collaborate with the team, which is how the world works today. Nobody works alone anymore. So you're out there, you're in collaboration, and you do something, and then just like that, you're building something out of getting together. And I think it's remarkable. Now, one of the things I want to point out, and Ron, you can certainly make some comments in a minute. One of the things I want to point out is not only has the board been dedicated, and I thank the board again for their support, because without you supporting all the directions we bring to you, none of this would happen. Well, last year we presented a whole array of new staff, and one of the members that we brought was a young man who has an architectural background. Matter of fact, he's sitting with us tonight. Mohammed Wali. Mohammed is in the back. He is an architect by trade, and we brought to the board, and the board hired based on my recommendation and a high school's recommendation and Mr. Dorso's recommendation, obviously. And he wrote me a very nice email, which I would like to read to you, because I was impressed by a new teacher communicating this. He said, "Good morning, Mr. Watson. I need to take a moment here to share with you how personally and genuinely impressed I was by what I saw yesterday. I saw students from Mount Punion Hills, Paramus, Pascagoula Valley, Bloomfield, Old Japan, Denver, and more. A broad range of programs from some very highly endowed schools totaling 16 individual teams. From the moment we walked in, our students were a class act. They were well behaved and quiet. They were enthusiastic. When it came time to compete, even though they were split into two teams, they were focused on collaboration and learning instead of winning. This was an immensely difficult challenge. Students were given just a few hours to complete a higher order STEM lab report about acidity in water, then had to design and build a working model. They were given little more than plastic cups, bottles, gravel, coffee filters, and baking soda to create this working water purification device that would remove acidity, sediment, and more from contaminated water, creating clean drinking water. This challenge truly did involve every aspect of STEM and push kids to the critical thinking and real-world problem solving. I am happy to be their coach and to have more sort of impact in my time here. And I am happy to be their coach and to have made some sort of impact in my time here thus far. However, the real credit is to this district, Ron Dorso, and the incredible teachers you hired, with a special personal thanks to Mr. Steve Mondadori and Laura Higgins. Our students' math was perfect, their science lab was top graded, their drawings were excellent. These are things they learned, and they did it right here in Fair Lawn. I would also love to add, since the portion of this is not published, that a perfect competition score was an 80. Our first place team scored 78.5 out of the 80. I wanted to read that because here we have a brand new teacher. He comes in, and what does he do? He gives credit to the people who have been here teaching the kids. That's class. So I have a nice job on that. Mr. Dorso, would you have any comments you'd like to add?
I can't top that.
Can't top that.
I would like to invite you though, as long as the weather's good, on February 10th, is it, Bob? Yes. February 10th, we're hosting a STEM League competition at Fair Lawn High School. So a lot of those same schools will be competing here in a challenge, which will get to be determined. The teachers are working hard on.
We're happy to host.
Our home game.
Congratulations. That's right. The home team. Okay, thank you. That's all I have for you. Yes.
Would it be too arduous to have them show us their experiment, or some of the STEM kids that come show the boys their experiments and how they work? Because I'd love to see that without going into without us all going to high school.
They would get them on an education meeting. Maybe there's 90 meet for the park school. Okay, we'll work on that.
We're going to move on to the agenda report. S1, Mark, would you like to read that for the board, please?
Resolution regarding the retirement of Virginia Senzon. Whereas Ms. Virginia Senzon, dedicated ancillary teacher in Fairlawn High School District since 1999, has requested retirement at the end of the day on December 31st, 2015. And whereas Ms. Virginia Senzon has with warmth and understanding competently guided her students' mathematical skills so necessary to better meet the challenges in life, and in doing so has endeared herself to students, parents, and colleagues alike. Therefore, be it resolved that the Fairlawn Board of Education publicly acknowledges the many years of service rendered by Ms. Virginia Senzon and wishes her a long life and joyful retirement. And be it further resolved that the Secretary to the Board of Education be directed to spread this resolution in full upon the minutes, and that the Superintendent of Schools present a copy of this resolution to Ms. Virginia Senzon, the educator being so honored.
Thank you, Mark. S2, Mary?
Resolution regarding the retirement of Patricia Grunstra. Whereas Ms. Patricia Grunstra, a dedicated special education aide and paraprofessional in the Fairlawn Public School District since 1989, has requested retirement at the end of day on November 30th, 2015. And whereas Ms. Patricia Grunstra, with warmth and kindness, has been truly receptive to the needs of those students requiring special instruction services by conscientiously and competently guiding them to fulfill their role in today's world, and therefore be it resolved that the Fairlawn Board of Education publicly acknowledges the record of accomplishments achieved by Ms. Patricia Grunstra and wishes for her a long and happy retirement. And be it further resolved that the Secretary to the Board of Education be directed to spread this resolution in full upon the minutes, and that the Superintendent of Schools send a copy of this resolution to Ms. Patricia Grunstra, the paraprofessional being so honored.
Thank you, Mary. S3, Jeff?
Resolution regarding the retirement of Dr. Eugene Packer. Whereas Dr. Eugene Packer, a dedicated science teacher in the Fairlawn School District since 2004, has requested retirement at the end of the day on June 30th, 2016, and whereas Dr. Eugene Packer has shown dedication to the task of inculcating young minds with those skills demanded by the needs of our modern society, and resolved that the Fairlawn Board of Education pay tribute to Dr. Eugene Packer for the many years of devoted service to the students in the high school, and wishes for him many enjoyable and fulfilling years of pleasant retirement. And be it further resolved that the Secretary to the Board of Education be directed to spread this resolution in full upon the minutes, and that the Superintendent of Schools present a copy of this resolution to Dr. Eugene Packer, the educator being so honored.
Thank you, Jeff. Can I have a motion to approve S1 through S3?
So moved.
Comments from the board? Mary?
Few comments. First, I asked to read the resolution regarding the retirement of Pat Grunstra because I know Pat since Meg and her daughter Kerry were 3 years old and going to play and learn in Fairlawn. So it's a long time that I know Pat. The work that she does, as all our special education aides, paraprofessionals, is a very special work that takes a very special person. And we are so grateful as a board to the people that do this work for us. Also, for Virginia, a dedicated ancillary teacher. Again, it's children who really need that extra attention and devotion, and our ancillary do that. They give all that special, just a little special extra to our children to help them to succeed. Dr. Packer, we congratulate him as he's taught science, but there is something missing from the resolution, which we should make note of, and should thank him also for the fact that many years ago, Dr. Packer was a board member and served on our Board of Education. So it's a little extra thank you to him for dedication from many different, coming at us from many different directions. Elise.
I just want to also add that Dr. Packer is the fencing coach and brought back the many successful fencers from our program. You know, he is.
Any comments from the board? Comments from the public on S1 through S3? Seeing none? Bruce?
That one over there.
I'm sorry. Hi, Dawn.
Hi, Dawn Ebner, Fairlawn High School teacher. I just want to comment on S1 through S3 in recognizing the dedication and commitment of the ancillary and paraprofessional and the teachers at Fairlawn in the Fairlawn School District. Just looking very quickly with the dedication that we have to an ancillary teacher here who dedicated herself to the special students that needed that little bit of extra help, as Mary had mentioned, for that was 17, 18 years, and the other, and Pam? Patricia, for 28 years dedicated her life to the students of Fairlawn, and I think that's outstanding for our, individuals, the paraprofessionals, and the ancillary teachers to, make that dedication to Fairlawn for such a long period of time. And of course, Dr. Packer, I work with him at the high school, and, highly recognized individual and works really hard with the kids too. Thank you.
Just quickly, I agree with everything that everybody said about the three of them. The interesting thing too about Gene Packer is, most people probably don't know, the high school sports, all high school sports are, they fall under the control umbrella of an organization called the NJSIAA, which really oversees all high school sports in the state of New Jersey. And when you have playoffs, NJSIAA has the responsibility to find out where do you play the championship, where does it play? To play at MetLife Stadium in football, to play at Rutgers, which it has in the past, to play all over. And other sports, indoor track and basketball, where do you play? Well, Mr. Packer being our fencing coach a number of years ago, him and NJSIAA, and we actually now host the fencing championship up in the Northeast region, right here at Fairlawn High School, because of his involvement and the involvement of the high school administration. So again, Fairlawn is right out there. So Gene played a pretty big role in getting that here with us. So I just want to thank you for that and all the kids that he had coached over the years in fencing. It's a great sport, fencing, by the way.
I just wanted to wish all three of them many years of healthy retirement. Have a roll call, please.
Mr. Banta?
Yes.
Mrs. Frankel? Yes. Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mrs. Piella?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Spindell?
Yes.
Mrs. Wallace?
Yes.
Ms. Parsons?
Yes. Moving on the agenda, E1, attendance at conference convention workshop. E2, approval of extracurricular trips. E3, approval of student, teachers, interns, practicums, field observation placement. E4, approval of change of compensation, basic skills kindergarten, Title I. E5, approval of attendance at various Bergen County academies and Bergen County technical schools for Amherst, Teterboro, and Hackensack for the 2015-16 school year. E6, approval of bedside home instruction. E7, approval of AccuPlacer remediation. E8, approved changes to workshops. P1, approval of resignation of certificated personnel. P2, approval of certificated day-to-day substitute and bedside home instruction personnel. P3, approval of resignation of non-certificated personnel. P4, approval of appointment of certificated personnel. P5, approval of appointment of secretarial clerical personnel. P6, approval of non-certificated day-to-day substitutes. P7, approval of appointment of non-certificated personnel. P8, approval of change in assignment of non-certificated personnel. P9, approval of change in effective date certificated personnel. P10, approval of leave of absence without pay, child rearing, certificated personnel. P11, approval of change in effective date of promotion, certificated personnel. P12, approval of change in effective date, non-certificated personnel. P13, salary adjustment to a higher degree status, mid-year qualification. P14, appointment of personnel Schedule B positions. P15, approval to amend appointment of LDTC consultant. P16, approval of leave of absence without pay, non-certificated personnel. P17, approval of appointment of non-certificated personnel. P18, approval of appointment, Thomas Jefferson Middle School musical personnel. SE1, approval of tuition, transportation to special schools providing regular special education for the 2014-15 school year. SE2, approval of bedside home instruction for classified students. SE3, approval of required related services for classified students. May I have a motion to approve E1 through SE3?
So,
Second.
Comments from the board?
a
Jack?
question, or Joanne perhaps. When we send students to Bergen Tech, what's the tuition per student, or does it change by their focus or their shop?
It does. There's different levels of tuition. You have special education tuition if there's special needs. We have various academies. There's now 8 academies, so we have different charges for the academy versus, and you got full-time Bergen Tech, Bergen Votech, so there's 3 different tuitions.
So for, let's say for a full-time Bergen Votech that goes to Peterborough or Paramus or whatever.
I don't know it off the top of my head. I can get that to you.
Thank you.
Joan?
I wanted to congratulate the board, Mr. Rosenblum's grade 4 Radboud students that's going to Bronx Zoo. Since they piloted a new educational program designed and written by Mr. Rosenbaum and his class, I think that's wonderful that they're going and they're going to be doing that.
I just wanted to say it was nice to see and read through all the trips and all the different places, you know, from all the age levels that we're going back on trips since we had, you know, they kind of slow down.
It depends on budget, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, budget and, you know, ability.
Ability, mostly, if it's in the budget, we can do it.
Any other comments from the board on these items? Any comments from the audience on E1 through SE3? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Banta?
Yes.
Mrs. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mrs. Piella?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Spindell?
Yes.
Mrs. Wallace?
Yes.
Ms. Quackenbush?
Yes. Continue on with the finance agenda. F1, school use. F2, discards. F3, acceptance of Bergen County Utilities Authority grant. F4, bills payable payroll. F5, bills payable. F6, transfers July 2015. F7, transfers August 2015. F8, transfers September 2015. F9, second reading adoption of board policies. F10, approval to accept Board of Education committee job description responsibilities. F11, approval for the Board of Education to submit the application for the Radboud School Playground. F12, Board Secretary Report July 2015. F13, Board Secretary Report August 2015. F14, Board Secretary Report September 2014. Can I have an approval to approve F1 through, a motion to approve F1?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments from the board? Mary?
Yes, again, the $1,000 grant, the hard work of Peter Arts and Craig Cohen, we thank them for, with any grant, it means people have to do work to apply for it, so we thank them very much.
Mike?
Again, just going to F11, the Radboud Playground, it was a long time coming. It was a whole, I want to congratulate the Radboud School PTA for being able to raise all the funds that they raised and finally get Radford School well on its way to having the new playground. Now we just have to get the Radford Association to approve it, and hopefully with the backing of the board, that will be done. So congratulations, Radford.
Mary? Yeah, I just also wanted to say in terms of the Fairlawn Board of Education Committee job descriptions, they're attached at the back. I just wanted the public to know that this was the hard work of the board at a board retreat, where we worked to refine exactly what was the responsibility of each committee on the board and exactly what we should be involved with. And it was about a good 3 hours of work, and we're very happy that it turned out very well. Many boards of education do not have as comprehensive a job description.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to comment on that. I just wanted to thank the board for working together to come together to make sure that the committees are well defined and that we're doing our duties as committee members on these committees. And thank you all for your cooperation on that. Any comments from the public on F1 through F14? Yes. Can you just state your name for the record?
Me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm Mrs. Belika, I'm a Radford parent. I don't know, you read it too quickly for me, and I'm not a native speaker. Did I miss, it's a financial part, right? I have a financial question about before and after care. Do you have anything?
You can hold your comment for the public comment portion of the meeting, and then you'll be happy to do it at that time. Okay? It's like 5 minutes away. Okay?
I just want to say thank you to the board for supporting us. This is a dream that I've had for our school, and I know Kelly, you too. This has been a dream that she's had, and she's worked really hard, and the PTA have worked really hard. And we can't thank you enough for supporting us, and maybe you'll take the first ride on the swings.
All right, you can go down the
I got swings on the slide.
I don't think I'm going to go on the swing.
I want to thank you,
Monkey bars, no monkey bars.
Any other comments from the public on these agenda items?
It's out with Todd.
Yeah, Dawn Ebner, Fairlawn High School. Relative to item F3, the acceptance of the Bergen County Utilities Authority grant. Congratulations to Memorial Middle School on that. The high school, the National Honor Society, also received a $1,000 grant from the Bergen County Utilities Authorities as well, to recognize the recycling efforts that the National Honor Society has done at the high school. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe one of the elementary schools also received it, right? Received the grant as well from the Bergen County Utilities Authority. So just to recognize those schools as well.
Thank you, Dawn. Yep. Congratulations to both schools on that also.
Hi, Kelly Sullivan, Radford School. I just, again, wanted to echo what Mrs. Lindsay said. Thank you for your support. It has been a long road. We still have road to travel, but with your support, I know that our Radford students in the future will have a playground, and it will be because you supported our efforts. So I do want to say thank you to all of you individually. Really, I can't thank you.
Okay. I guess I need a roll call. Yes, Bruce wanted to make a comment before the vote.
I just want to make
Sorry.
one comment for
Sorry,
the record, and that is that item F9 on the agenda, which is the second reading of an adoption of board policy 5615. In case you're reading that, people see that and sort of wonder what that is all about. There is a mandate to districts that new principals must attend in their first year the workshops and seminars on suspected gang activity, and we have to have a policy which supports that, so that's the connection. And then the administration, every so many years, goes for a renewal on that. And that's another part of the real life that's going on. And we want to make sure that we can protect as many people from that as possible. And gangs are around us, they are active, and if we're not educated on how to recognize and how to, move them around, move them out, and, we would have a blind eye to something that's right in front of our face. And so that's a very important policy, and I thank the board for taking it to the level of getting it updated and obviously approved tonight. I want to thank Mrs. Panagia because she's the coordinator for these policies with our company and the board, so thank you to everybody.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Banta?
Yes.
Mrs. Frankel? Yes. Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mrs. Piella?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Stendel?
Yes.
Mrs. Wallace?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes. Okay, we're going to move to the public comments of the meeting. For many members of the public. Can I just have you just state your name for the record?
Mrs. Belek, okay, Radburn parent. We used before and after care last year very successfully. The child loved it, everything was fine. I paid for 5 days before care, 4 days after care. This year I decided to use it again. He still needs it. He loved it. He hopefully would love it. I came to Fairlawn, where I have to pay for it. It's not the Radburn part of the school, it's something else. It's part of the community center or something. I went there for the same amount of hours, for the same days. They want me to pay now 50% more, 50. And I asked them, why is it such an increase in my pay? They told me we usually have an increase in money. I understand it should be about like maybe 10, 20% a year, but not 50%. They told me that you guys make the prices for it. What is it based on? Like how come we get such an increase?
Sure. You want it or you want me to answer? I'll answer. We have a situation in that the before school, first of all, there's a community school. The community school falls under the auspices of this Board of Education. Although they do have their own board and their own director, ultimately, they're part of the Board of Education. So there's the link. Secondly, it was brought to our attention this year that the pricing structure was being distributed differently to different people. We can't have that. It's not the way we work. So we looked at the program. We have fixed costs to run the program. It is very fairly priced, at even 100%. If you paid the full amount of money, it's very fairly priced compared to any private babysitting, daycare, or anything that we know out there. We survey around us, the community school, the director survey around. We have surveys of other schools, the private ones. Our pricing is still it's a favorable pricing for the parents. However, we're not going to spend extra money to do that. That's got to support itself and cover all costs, so it self-sustains. That's the idea of the program. And then there's some other responsibilities involved, but it also covers responsibilities that the director has in other areas. What we found out, which was brought to our attention, is that there was a personal decision, not covered by anybody here, the board, the administration, to start giving some people pay full and some people pay this and some people pay that. You can't have that. And so we brought it to the board's attention. We made a recommendation to the board. We, meaning myself and the business office, made a recommendation to the board. Some people were getting a 50% discount on the full price because they pick up their child at 4:30. We still have fixed costs.
It's not 50% anymore.
No, it's not, because we changed it. That's why I'm explaining the history. So we have this. So we understand that if some people are not going to utilize the services all day or every day, okay, we agree that they could have some discount. So we recommended a 30% discount, but not a 50% discount. So people who are getting a 50% discount will now have to, under the recommendation, pay the additional money and get a 30% discount. those people who were getting no discount and had no idea this was available to them are now saying, can I have the discount? And we said, yes, if you fall in line. So now it's very fairly managed. Everybody has an opportunity. It's not where some people are getting a deal and other people aren't getting a deal just because they don't know about it or they didn't ask. So we're trying to be fair to everybody and also take the pricing in it. But as I told a couple of parents who called me, if they want to go out and look and they can find a service and they feel we're unfair, I said, we'll reimburse your money no matter when you leave for that month. If you leave on November 20th, we'll reimburse you full November. I mean, that's the best we can do if you find another service. I don't think you're going to, quite frankly, but we have to price it for everybody. It can't be special deals. That's not right.
That was priced for everybody last year as well. Yes. Yes, it was.
No, it was priced for those who got the special deals last year as well.
There
But
were
it,
no
but it
special
wasn't.
deals.
Oh, I meant,
Well, we
never
want
mind.
to sign up.
There are special deals. Yes. Yes.
No. I just came last year to this school district and I knew about it and I used that 50% discount if you don't keep the child full time there.
But there was never a 50% discount approved. It was never approved.
It has nothing to do with me.
No, I know it doesn't. So we're trying to correct the situation.
Not for the parents' sake. We still work. We didn't get 50% increase in our salaries. And now if we use that discount, it's not
Well,
fair
the
to us.
board is going to discuss it later, and if they want to change their mind, they can change their mind. But we're trying to keep everything in this district fair to every parent, whether you're going to pay a little more, somebody's going to. There's a lot of people now who are paying less. I'm sure they're not here telling us that, by the way, we're paying less.
That's great.
It
And
is great.
somebody should.
But that's not what we have to do. We can't do that. Can't have everybody paying less. We're now funding the program. We have a finite amount of money to fund this whole district. That's not part of the curriculum. It's not mandated. That is outside. That's something we're trying to do really as a favor to try to help some parents who work.
So you're saying if I find another program who provides services to different school districts, like kind of independent program, you can hire them if they're cheaper?
No, I'm not hiring them. I said, if you find another service that you would like to take your child out of the program and put them in another program, we'll reimburse you for the month you leave, whether you leave on the 1st or you leave on the 30th. We'll give you that month back.
Another question. If the weather is really nasty, now we are getting into winter, why cannot the schools be open at 8 o'clock now, or 8:15 at least, not at 8:35?
No, we're not going to do that. Schools open up at a time that's set. We monitor the program. So the time we open up schools, the bell schedule begins. All the classes are timed. We have passing time worked out. We got a whole schedule for the day. And the staff doesn't get there. We have staff that come at a certain time to monitor and to be there for the children. I can't get people there any earlier, and if I do, then we have to pay them extra, right? And therefore, then I'm going to go back and increase.
Yes, ma'am, and then I'll take the gentleman.
My name is Emily Abdon, and I have a question about Africa as well. And a point that Maria didn't cover was that this came about in November. We got a memo at the end of October, but we have a contract from the end of August when I signed up for the program, August 31st. As far as I know, a contract is legally binding for the year, the 10-month school year. So I'm curious as to why it was changed. I also incurred a 40% increase in my son's tuition. If it was happened at the beginning of the school year, or, I just want to know what the justification is for doing this to parents at this point of the year. And I know that you're saying that it's unapproved, but that is, I'm coming back to the point of, that is not the fault of the parents that signed up. That, we just we said, this is the time that we're going to pick our child up by. In fact, most days I'm picking up by 4 o'clock. why are we not? They're saying that we're unapproved, but we didn't know that you were unapproved.
No,
We
you
just
didn't.
went in and said.
I
this is the time
apologize,
that we
I
said.
apologize for that you weren't informed, and I hear what you're saying, and I empathize with it. My job is to find things that aren't right and correct them. That's part of being the superintendent of school. I made a recommendation after a lot of conversation with my team to the board to make it fair to everybody, not just to you three sitting here or five sitting here, but to all the parents that are in the program. I have to be at least look, you don't have to like the decision, but it's got to be fair.
About, but I think it's unfair to have a contract that you start in at the beginning, let's say it starts at the beginning of August, because that's when school starts. Why is it changed 2 months later? That's my question. That it's not changing at the beginning of the school year. You're not changing it from year to year. You're changing it 2 months into the program, and it's a huge increase for some of us. Not for everyone. And it's good that you're able to make it more fair, so everyone's benefiting from it. But like we've been saying, this is my curiosity. Why did this happen at this point?
Okay, I thought I explained it. Probably didn't do a good job. Let me try it again. Okay, we came across something that is wrong. The process was wrong. Okay, it was never an approved process. It was never run by me. It was never run by my business administrator. It was never run by the Board of Education. We're trying to correct the process. I know we pushed it off to February 1, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we pushed it off to February 1. However, we did open the door for those who now know about it, and they started November 1. So we're helping those parents out. And we're trying to do the best we can. The issue about you signed a contract, we're going to discuss that in executive session, and the attorneys are going to weigh in on that, and the board will make a decision.
David.
Yeah, David Schreiner. First, something positive. I got a chance to take advantage of going to Lindcrest this week and got a chance to sit in on a kindergarten lesson where my son was able to read me a story that he did with pictures that he was illustrating and writing. It was great. And then I got a chance to sit on with Mrs. Cohen in the 5th grade class with Ms. Mungiello, one of the new teachers this year, and sat in on one of their team learning of irregular verbs, where they called me the expert, but they were actually teaching me about irregular verbs. And I just want to say it was great. I appreciate the opportunity. We try to take advantage of it every year. And I hope you guys continue to do it for as long as my kids are in school. I think it's great. I do want to weigh in on the before and after care thing, because it's not so much. I understand what you're saying. We found out about this secret, whatever it was, the half day, and we're able to take advantage of it because we asked for it. And I know that doesn't make any sense, and I appreciate what you're trying to do. But I echo what she said. I didn't catch her name, but what she said in terms of. I went in July and went over it with the woman behind the counter at the community school, and we went through all the numbers and said, okay, you're paying this much money this year. And I'm sure like a lot of families, you went and budgeted this much money per month in the year. And what was kind of interesting about the communication was the memo didn't come first. First came just a pricing sheet without any kind of recognition that the prices were now different. Then, I think after some complaints, a memo came like the next week saying, hey, this is what we're doing, and we're going to February 1st. So it was kind of reactionary, and I would hate to call it sneaky in terms of the way that it was introduced to the public, but it might actually make sense in this case. So I think it's kind of, I understand what you're saying. You're righting or wrong, you're correcting things. I think you're kind of screwing over the parents who have budgeted for the year in terms of what they were looking to pay for the year. I agree wholeheartedly that it has to be corrected. Everyone should get this. Everyone should be treated the same. But I would think you would start that at the beginning of the school year and say, hey, look, we made the mistake, we screwed up, and we're going to have to take our lumps for 4 or 5 months until we get it right. The parents didn't screw up. You guys screwed up, or the community school screwed up, or whatever happened in the transition. And to go ahead and say, you know what, mid-year, screw you guys. We're going to pay. You're going to be $200, $300, $400 more. That's just not right.
So let me respond a little bit. First of all, I want to make it very clear, myself and nobody else says we're going to screw them over. That's your words, David, not mine.
No, I'm sure.
And we don't use it. No, let me respond. We don't talk that way. We don't treat parents that way. And you need to understand one thing. I don't care what happens in this district. I'm responsible. I'm the superintendent. I'm responsible. So I'm not going to say this guy made a mistake and that guy made a mistake. We made a mistake. I'm responsible. But at the time I get that, the information that is wrong, I'm gonna act. Now, the board has a right, as you know, okay, you know, the board has a right to say, okay, Bruce, we disagree with you at this point. I don't have a right to sit back and say, well, now that I know there's something, there's inequity in something, I'm not gonna say a word to anybody. I can't do that. I wouldn't be doing my job. I bring it to the board, and I make a recommendation. It's like every other problem. Here's a problem, here's my recommendation. The board said, gee, we like it, we'll vote on it. We don't like it, Bruce, go back and give us another one. That's how it works. So we're not doing anything to hurt people, okay? But I take full responsibility that it happened under my watch. I'm trying to correct it. Let's see what the board wants to do with it. If they want to change the recommendation, they'll change the recommendation.
And if I can just, I mean, again, I disagree that you're not hurting people with the way that you're enacting this in the middle of the school year, when families have budgeted for the year. I know that, I'm sure, I don't know about everybody else, but I sat with a woman in the community school for 10 minutes, and we went through even numbers, and went through the percentages, and all these things.
I'm not saying that's not a hardship, David. All I'm saying is.
But when you say you're not hurting
all I'm
people.
saying is the connotations that you use are wrong, absolutely wrong. We don't feel like.
We can play semantics, but what I'm saying.
David, I'm going to interrupt. David, you said, and I quote, you're screwing people.
Yes.
And that's not the
That's
case.
not correct.
I disagree with the affectation that you put in there. If
Okay.
you want to say you made a mistake and it's hurting people, that's different than saying you're screwing people. That has a very specific connotation.
Fine, I apologize for using the
Okay,
word
so that's,
screwing people.
otherwise,
You're hurting people.
okay. I can live with that
Okay, that's fine.
adjective.
We are talking about it during closed
It's
session.
contractual nature, so we don't talk about that.
Yes.
That was already on the agenda.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Yes, ma'am, could you just state your name?
Stephanie Moreno. It's not about the before or after here, but it came to my attention that the teachers in Fairlawn are working without a contract and on the parent community. And one of the reasons why I came to me was for the grade school system. Can the board give us any information about that at this time?
Well, we're in the middle of negotiations. Okay, we are working under the old contract. It's not that there's no contract, they're working on the terms and conditions of the prior contract. We're currently in negotiations. We're heading to what's called fact-finding, where somebody from the state will come in and sit down with us and try to get us to resolve the issues. That's really all I can say. Okay, I mean, we don't negotiate in public, so I can't discuss the issues, but we're working with FLE and with the state to try and resolve the issues.
Gene is our head negotiator for the teachers, and that's why I asked him to respond to your question.
I would, from what I've seen, I was able to go on Monday for the American Education Week, and my daughter's in kindergarten in Radnor, and it's been incredible what I've seen. And the teachers have been great. She also goes to the basic skills in Forest School, and sorry, I have a cold for my 3-year-old. So, and I'm really impressed and very happy with the Fairlawn school teachers. They go above and beyond so many times from what I've heard from the community and also from my own experience. I would hopefully strongly urge the Board of Ed to come to an agreement. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any other comments from the public? Okay, we're going to move on to old business. The only, okay, want to set, we'll set meeting dates. I know Bruce wanted to put an education meeting together. Natalie, Elise.
What is the date that you said that had to be reported within a certain amount of days, so what is our window?
We get 60 days.
Or 60 days?
Because I don't know when the next education committee meeting is based on.
It wasn't scheduled
hours.
until an education meeting is on our rolling
Right.
agenda for March.
Right, that was the question, right, but that's too long,
Yeah,
so
right.
something else has to be fit in.
Now, the other thing too is, the state is going to release all of this to the press, Park Scores to the press. they're not sure, but sometime in January. So we'd like to have this all covered and reviewed, and then we can sit and, don't forget, we have to take the park scores, and we have to review with our staff. You know, they have to, tomorrow we have a park meeting here with the administration. We're going to, start going over that, and then they're going to have to go out to faculty meetings and share things, and go over score reports when we get them. Right. So we'd like to do that before, so the staff, everybody's in. So I'm looking at a possible, is everybody looking at, how about December 17th, Thursday night?
That's our board.
Oh,
10th is the board meeting. This month, the 10th is the board.
The 10th?
Wow.
If the 17th doesn't work, then I'd have to say probably you go to maybe January 7th. Because after the 17th, you're not going to get a night out.
Could we do it the same night that we're meeting anyway? Do the swear in the board members?
Organization.
So could we do it the
When
next
is that?
organization meeting?
What night is that?
I don't think we've established that.
It's got to be the
First
first
week
week
in
of
January.
January.
How
So
about,
it could
how
be
about
the
the 7th?
The 7th.
It's the 7th. Still good for that?
Yeah, if it's within the calendar.
No, I mean, that's still good for the organization.
First fall.
Yeah.
It's the Thursday of the first week of January.
Right.
That's
the
January,
7th.
that's January 7th. Not too late in the week. Within 10 days.
Right.
Yeah, it's on the calendar right there. Week before.
To do the reorg, right, you have 10 days.
Yeah, do the reorg and we can.
Can you have that at the same time? That's fine.
Start the reorg a little earlier.
Start at like 7.
7.
January 7th at 7.
Oh, I'm saying 7, they're not saying 7, I was just suggesting.
No,
But you're saying January 7th.
what time would we start the?
Once in a while I can do it.
7?
Do 7. Yeah, I just want to be here a while.
Sort
of, kind of.
Once in a while.
Did you hear that? 7 o'clock?
Yes, I did. I'll work it out.
Let's stick to the letter of the law.
And
So
then
we're gonna have
education.
so we're gonna have the reorg on January 7th, 2016 at 7, followed by an
Just right
education.
immediately followed by.
Okay, everybody got that?
Got it. I'm gonna schedule a technology meeting. We can do it again at 4, try for a 4 o'clock time again. Can you fit in December?
Can we do it December 10th, the same day as the board meeting, just earlier that day?
December 10th, 4 o'clock? Can we pencil it in then? And if Mr. Swindell can't make it, then can you let us know tomorrow? Yep.
Shoot me an email, let me know which Wednesdays, and then I'll put it on the list.
Okay.
Are we having a student dialogue meeting that month? Louise?
We're fine.
That's the night of the board.
December 10th.
That's the board. Oh, you have something. Oh, yeah.
Does anybody have to schedule any more meetings? You want to just, rehash, give us some, a read?
Yeah, 10. What is on this tomorrow? I think I can. Right, so 10, 5 o'clock. I'll let you know. 4 o'clock, right?
Yes.
And yes.
December 10th at 4 o'clock, we have a tech meeting. December 10th at 5:30 is student dialogue. December 10th at 7:30 is the regular Board of Ed meeting. Then we have on January 7th is a reorganization meeting, the reorg meeting, we're swearing in at 7 o'clock, immediately followed by an education meeting. Anything else? And we also have a board retreat on December 5th. at 8:30 at the high school.
Okay, that's the meeting. Does anybody have any new business? No new business?
Yeah, I have one thing to say, and it might be controversial on an education front. I'm really impressed with the amount of information that Park is. All of a sudden, it's the exact opposite of what we were doing last year. Last year, we were sitting there, and I was totally against Park and the whole thing. But the state is releasing like questions, and the exact opposite. Last year, everything was so secretive, and nothing's going to be released. And this year, they changed it from 2 weeks to 1 week, and they're releasing all the questions. Like, so teachers are going to get some feedback on what the questions were and what they did from last year. So I'm kind of, it's the one thing in the world that all of a sudden is changing for the better, so. I did.
I just wanted to.
I still don't think, by the way, I'm sorry, I still don't think that it should count for teacher evaluations, because that's a shame, and it's
There's just too much of
on everything for it to be counted as a teacher's evaluation. I'll always be against that.
I just wanted to wish everyone and their family a very happy and blessed Thanksgiving. I'm going to ask for a motion to recess for 10 minutes. So move. And then move into closed session. We will be coming back out of closed session to vote on the harassment, intimidation, and bullying investigation. Other items. And we're going into closed session for, where? I'm sorry. The HIB reports, pricing discussion, negotiation, litigation, attorney update. And we will be coming out to vote on the HIB reports. And so moved. Okay. So moved by Mary, seconded by Joan. Going to take a 10-minute recess.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed? Seeing none?